Good morning, everybody. So I'm gonna put two lectures together today, and I'm also gonna put their corresponding assignments together, and make them both due Wednesday. So your discussion board today, you don't have to do till Wednesday. Clifford, and Wednesday's William James. I'm gonna put together as a debate. About what? About the ethics of belief. Um, I think it's fair to say people don't typically think of belief as the proper subject of moral judgment. When people make moral judgments, they're usually judging actions. He did this wrong, he did that wrong, she did this wrong. The ethics of belief is the question of whether beliefs themselves can be subject to moral judgment. Can a belief be wrong in the moral sense, not just a rational sense? Can it be wrong to believe something or to not believe something? I think when people do make this judgment, they usually make it in the opposite direction of Clifford. I'll get to Clifford in a second, but I think the most common version of an ethics of belief is the belief that it's wrong to not believe in God. You may think that yourself. Clifford is arguing. I'm going to put some words in his mouth, but I think between the lines, he's arguing that it's immoral to believe in God if you don't know it. So it's kind of a strange and maybe shocking thing to argue if you're unfamiliar with this domain. Even if you are, it's kind of a shocking, premise or thesis that it can be morally wrong to believe in God. Why? Let's give his argument. It's a classic, it's a strange argument, it might be wrong, but it's compelling in its way. So he starts with a couple of cases. The first one is the famous one, the ship owner. A man owns a ship, and he sends immigrants out to sea. He knows that the ship is old and needs to be repaired, but he talks himself into believing that God will keep this ship safe. Providence, if you read the article, is the word he uses to describe God's plan. So God has a plan, and God will take care of it, and he doesn't have to take care of his ship. So he sends it out again and again, getting older, until one day it sinks, and all these families on their way to the new world die. Now, what do you think about this morally? Did he do something wrong? Unquestionably. He sent out a ship in a negligent, dangerous way. But did he also believe wrongly? And I don't just mean like believe the wrong facts. Did he morally fail in not trying to know something he needed to know? That's Clifford's argument, that we have an obligation to believe things on evidence and not just believe things willfully. Why? What's the argument for this belief? So we have this case where a man does something terrible. He sends a negligent, acts negligently in sending a dangerous ship out without fixing it and checking it and inspecting it. But that action was based on beliefs. All of your actions are based on beliefs. Every time you do something, it's based on what you think about the world, what you think its consequences are, what you want. And to try to separate your actions from your beliefs is really impossible, because every time you act, it's driven by what you think. So when this man talks himself into believing that everything's going to be fine without checking, he's believing immorally. Because your actions matter, and they depend on your beliefs, which also matter. Some things that underpin this argument. Beliefs are public. We typically think of beliefs as happening inside some private theater in your mind where only you have access to them, but they're not like that. They're passed to you from people around you, from your parents, from your culture, from your past, and you pass them on to others. They're like viruses. If they get to you, they're going to get to someone else. So the idea that your beliefs are this private, internal, sacred, only inside me matter is simply false. Beliefs are based on language, and language is passed around in public like culture. And so if you think that your beliefs don't matter to anyone but you, you're likely to be negligent about them, and you're likely to make yourself into the kind of person who believes things that are false, that are going to hurt people. The conclusion of Clifford's argument is that it is wrong, morally wrong, not rationally wrong, morally wrong, to believe things without evidence, because you make mistakes that hurt people, like this ship owner, and you make yourself into the kind of person, if you don't care about what you think, if you don't treat your beliefs seriously, if you don't seek evidence for them, if you don't try to know that they're true, then you make yourself into the kind of person who affects others by the mere fact that they know you don't care means that they don't have to care for you. They don't have to seek the truth together. They can lie to you. They can let you live in your delusion. And you corrupt the people around you if you don't care what you think. And it's not just about whether you care what you think. You have to care that you get at the truth. Morally, you must aim at the truth. You have to... What does that mean? It means you seek evidence for your beliefs. It's wrong, in the conclusion of his argument, it's wrong always and everywhere to believe anything on insufficient evidence, because you harm people when you do. To go back to that ship owner case, read it again and think about what's underlying it, what matters morally about our beliefs. Now, he never mentions God except in passing in talking about providence, but this was about God. It is wrong, he thinks, to believe in God if you don't know it, because you're going to infect other people. You're going to make other people believe something then they don't know. It's going to pass around. Case 1 of the ethics of belief is Clifford. William James, our second reading, the one due Wednesday, again, I'm just putting these together. He's responding directly to Clifford. If you read it, you'll see Clifford's name in it. He's like, Clifford has this essentially correct belief, maybe, but expressed with too much pathos. And James has a response. The response goes like this. Let's start with the beginning. Sometimes you have belief decisions that are momentous, they matter, they're forced, you have to choose whether to believe or not believe a thing, and the two options are both possible for you, they're genuine. You could believe A, and you could not believe A. You could believe A, or you could believe B. And reason fails you. You seek evidence for your beliefs, you try, and you realize that this thing is beyond you. You don't know it. Towards the end of this reading, he gives you an example, a compelling example, moral decisions. Moral decisions matter. You may have more than one option that makes sense to you, that you could think this is right or maybe that's right. And evidence fails you. You cannot prove what the right thing to do is. When you are in that situation, William James thinks, you have not just the right, but the obligation to choose what to believe. And if reason is failing you, if you can't know rationally what to do, then the only thing left in you to decide the case is your will. Your mind is your reason and your will. If your reason fails, the only thing left to decide is your will. So you will what to believe. You choose your beliefs based on what you want to believe. This is exactly the kind of thing that Clifford was warning against. Thinking your reason fails too quickly, believing things just because you want them to be true. I think William James is arguing the default position for human nature. Most people believe what they want based on their will, based on what they want to be true. And he's telling you you should do it, and it's all nice and healthy. I think you should think of this as a back and forth. We read them in order, like Clifford, then James is responding to Clifford. I want you to think at the end of this, was Clifford right? Should I be just believing what I want to be true? Or should I, morally, do I have an obligation to only believe things I think I can know, and otherwise suspend judgment? That's the basic setup in the ethics of belief. We ended the semester with this because it's broad, and it gets to why I think this stuff matters. I'll put some questions on the discussion board about it, but I think that's enough for now. I'll post the readings in a minute, and you have till the end of the day Wednesday to do this. One more thing. If you're behind on assignments, I noticed the discussion boards were packed when we started this little online transition mode, and then have sort of tapered off a little bit. If you're one of the people who's gotten a little bit behind, I will accept late assignments. Try to catch up if you can. Your final is next week. It's going to be an essay exam. It's going to be different and more involved than your last midterm. The last midterm we were sort of in crisis mode with people. Well, I knew people didn't have laptops and it was a mess. Your final is going to be a little more intricate than the last midterm was. So prepare yourselves for that. That is next week. And I'm going to send it to you probably this weekend. I'll send you the final, so you'll have 4 or 5 days to work on it. All right? Have a good one. Be well.